بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Tanya.
My name is Abdullah.
I am Fatima. Tanya, what are we talking about al-yom?
Today we will talk about traveling in the Middle East.
Where is the Middle East?
The traditional definition of the Middle East encompasses 17 countries. However, it is not unusual to hear the term the Greater Middle East. The Greater Middle East is a political term coined by the Bush administration to englobe together various countries with significant Muslim majorities. For our purposes, when I say Middle East, I am referring to the traditional 17 countries.
First things first. You are going to need a passport. However, if you're going to visit Israel, you will need a duplicate passport because if you have a stamp from Israel in your passport, they may not allow you entrance into the country. Some countries have that restriction. Visas are needed to visit the countries in the Middle East. Long procedures are sometimes necessary in order to get all the paperwork done properly. Some countries will even deny access if the traveler already has a visa for Israel. Moreover, countries such as Saudi Arabia are closed for tourism, unless a traveler is sponsored by a local company or a native.
The best time to travel to the Middle East is in spring and autumn, from March to May and September to November. This is a time the Middle East weather is not as stifling. April is probably the best month, when temperatures are warm and wildflowers are in bloom. March can be cold and rainy in the north, but is balmy by the Gulf and the Dead Sea. June to September are to be avoided, especially the July and August period, which is very hot and humid. However, hotels and golf clubs and other facilities offer very good deals during the summer months, and it is worth remembering that hotels, shops, in fact, all buildings, cars, buses, etc., are air conditioned.
If you can, avoid planning your trip during Ramadan, as it will be extremely difficult to find businesses open or even some means of transportation.
We're not going to talk about hotels or accommodations because there is a lot of information online. It is important to recognize and respect cultural differences when you're visiting a new country.
That's true. Let's explore some of those in the Arab world.
The first thing to consider is that Islam is the religion of the majority in the Middle East. It is not just a religion, but it influences every single part of the Middle Eastern culture. Therefore, many things that are allowed or forbidden in the Middle Eastern region is going to be determined by what Islam says. Do not import guns and pornography materials into Middle Eastern countries. Along the same lines, do not even attempt to bring in or consume drugs in any of the Middle Eastern countries, because if you're caught, you will be arrested and you can face severe consequences as serious as the death penalty. If you're looking for stereotypical entertainment, such as belly dancers or even nightclubs, you're probably not going to find those in the mainstream society. However, you can look for them in hotels and other areas that are specially targeted to tourists.
Alcohol is prohibited by Islam, and so it is unlikely that you will find it in public display. But hotels probably do carry alcoholic beverages. If you are a beer drinker, beware. Due to the heat, the beer in the Middle East has loads of preservatives, which can unfortunately have a laxative effect. So drink at your own risk.
Similarly, pork is not found in the mainstream markets and restaurants. So if you absolutely want it, your best bet is, again, hotels. And obviously, if you decide to eat pork and drink alcohol, do not do it in public.
Dishes are very similar in the Middle East countries. Kebabs, flatbreads, and shawarmas are available almost everywhere. Middle East is known for its dry and hot climate. Hence, dehydration and heat stroke may occur. Drink treated and bottled water, as the tap water in certain regions may be too heavy on your stomach. You can also find all the regular sodas, as well as many of the Western restaurant chains.
Gratuity is expected in almost every Middle Eastern country other than Oman and Yemen, where the practice does not exist. Bakshish is staple in all the countries, and depending on your past experiences, it can be irritating or an experience that you will get used to right away. Salaries and wages are a lot lower than in Western countries, so it is a way of supplementing their income rather than depending on it.
For Western travelers who are not used to tipping in unfamiliar circumstances, bakshish can be given to a person for opening a door or pointing out the nearest toilets. One tip is to carry around a lot of small change so that you never have to snub a local in a situation where he has helped you out. I've been asked for bakshish in every situation, ranging from a man supplying me with toilet paper to turning on my lights in a hotel room. Get used to it because it is a fact of life here.
Many Middle Eastern countries are beginning to add gratuity into the bill. Be sure to read your bill carefully before leaving any extra few dollars on the table.
Dress code in the Middle East. Both men and women need to observe a strict dress code. No short skirts or shorts are to be worn in the streets, and no tight clothing. Only conservative clothing is allowed. Along the same lines of modesty and prudence, which are virtues highlighted and valued in Islam, please refrain from public displays of affection. It is considered very rude. This does not mean that everybody follows the rule, but as a visitor, you don't want to attract negative attention to yourself.
In the Middle East, friendship gestures, even amongst men, can seem almost homoerotic to us here in the United States. However, it is not uncommon to see men holding hands, kissing, hugging, etc. Nonetheless, the topic of homosexuality, as we know it, is a big taboo in the Middle East.
Bargaining is by far one of my favorite things about this part of the world. In the Middle Eastern countries, bargaining is a way of life. People in the West are really used to fixed prices, but in the Middle East, anything in a souk is up for a good round of bargaining. In markets selling basic items such as fruit or vegetables, prices are rarely bargained for, but for souvenirs, the price you pay is directly linked to your bargaining skills as well as your command of the language. If you decide to pay the asked price, then you must realize that you're actually hurting the game for the rest of travelers that come after you, because the sellers will figure out that every traveler after you is willing to pay 3 or 4 times the asking price.
It is very important to not walk around assuming everyone is going to rip you off, but it helps to ask the price from different sellers before committing to the buyer. Bargaining is a fun way to learn the language, and you can learn a lot of Arabic from going to the local market and bargaining with the locals. Not only will you have fun and get a good price, but you might end up meeting a new friend or get invited to a house or a wedding, etc. Great fun.
One of the highlights of the Middle East is if you get the opportunity to visit someone's home and experience the true Middle Eastern/Muslim hospitality. Sharing a meal is a great way to cement a friendship, but the etiquette can be initially complex if you are unfamiliar with the customs.
Avoid eye contact with females if you are a man. Wash your hands. Eat. Don't show the sole of your shoes. Avoid talks of politics and religion.
If you are planning a long stay, I would advise against renting a car because you really have to be used to the way Middle Easterners drive in order to come out of it alive. If you really want to have access to transportation 24/7, then you would be better off hiring a cab driver and paying him a lot less money to be readily available for you. There is public transportation too, but if you don't speak the language very well, you might get lost, since all the lettering and signs are written in Arabic alone.
The Middle East is viewed as a man's world and as difficult to travel around for solo women. The Middle East is a man's world, but traveling shouldn't be difficult if you take the proper precautions. There is a perception that tourist women are easy, quote unquote, and unfortunately, this perception is reinforced by them doing things that no respectable Muslim woman would do. You don't need to run to the nearest store and buy a head cover, but modesty is essential here if you want to have a good time. From my own experience, and after talking to some of my Middle Eastern girlfriends, here are a few tips if you're a woman.
Number 1. Wear a wedding ring even if you're not married. 2. If you're traveling with a man, say he's your husband to avoid any extra attention. Number 3. Avoid direct eye contact in both conservative areas and also in the markets. Sunglasses do help out a lot with this. Number 4. Don't respond to idiotic comments because most of the younger men are only looking for a reaction. So it is better to just keep walking and ignore them. Number 5. Don't sit in the front seat of the taxis in order to avoid any type of sexual advances. Number 6. On public transport, sit next to women if at all possible. In the cities where there is subways, there's always a section or a wagon dedicated solely to women. Always take these. Number 7. If you do need directions, ask women. And if this is not possible, try to ask hotel workers, as they may be more likely to be somewhat used to foreign women as opposed to just regular Arab men. Number 8. If you are eating alone, sit in the family section to avoid stares and unwanted attention. Number 9. If it happens and you're being followed, duck into a shop or a gas station or a hotel lobby. Relax! You do not need to take any more precautions in the Middle East than you would traveling to most Western countries. People are very kind and respectful, and I actually felt safer there than I sometimes do here in the city. It is a different culture, no question there, but that doesn't make it wrong, just different. Open your eyes and open your mind, and I'm sure that the Middle East will find a place in your heart. Have fun traveling. Ma'a salama.